I shouldn't be writing this script right now. It's nearly midnight on a Friday, and I try not to work on the weekend, but something compels me to document this while the experience is fresh in my head. According to Steam, I have played 101 minutes of the game Abermore at the moment of deciding that I need to make a video about it, which is likely more than most who dare install it do. I don't know if I can play any more of Abermore. The allure is great, but I don't know if my psyche can handle any more Abermore. Spoiler alert, I finished it at great cost to my mental health. I'm sure you have many questions right now. What is Abermore? Where is the next Kenshi video? Or who is this rambling lunatic on my homepage, provided YouTube is putting me on the homepage again? Well, I can answer the first question for you. Abermore is an indie game made by a studio who seems to have wanted to make an immersive sim without any previous experience in the genre as far as I can tell, and published by the same people who did MechWarrior 5. It is the greatest thing to be on a screen since Morbius, and their release in such close proximity to one another is a sign that we are in a golden age of delightful crap, or that maybe God is dead. Or maybe both, I don't know. Perhaps I should explain how I came across this game. I didn't find Abermore. It came to me. Out of the blue one day, I got a ping from Charlatan, developer for Parrotspedia. The ping was bunched in between some rather interesting images on his Discord, and I got an interesting mix of recommendations and warnings about the game. Some pleaded with me to play it as it was the funniest thing ever. Some pleaded with me not to play it, lest my soul be eradicated. I was even offered a free trial of the game, which I politely declined because I'm a good lad who pays for things with their own money, and yes, I actually bought this bad boy. Upon installing the game and booting it up, it changed my life. I'm not sure if it's for the better or the worse yet, but I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. Lord Mandalore once said it's hard for a game to be so bad it's good because unlike a bad movie, a bad game is also the DVD the movie comes on and the DVD player that you play the movie in. I'm paraphrasing here, I don't know the exact quote. However, the Unity engine is a thing in our age, and we're approaching a time when we can have the video game equivalent of a shot on camcorder movie. Something that to the pedestrian who cares about pointless, superficial things like high-end graphics, novel and innovative gameplay, or not soft-locking at the mission screen because you didn't pray to the train would consider a bad game. Philistines! All of them! What Abermore offers you isn't some Skinnerbox crap where you press the buttons to receive dopamine that you brag about to your friends on the Bird website. It's an experience that compels me to tell you about my experience so that you all might be persuaded to try Abermore yourself and experience true video games. Before we get into it, something that is worth noting is that this is heavily implied to be an unfinished game that was forced out by deadlines or some other thing, and due to unfortunate circumstances will most likely never be finished through patches or other means. Since playing this game, there's been a couple of small patches to fix utterly debilitating issues, such as a near guaranteed soft lock at the tutorial, but I intentionally waited a month after the launch to release this video, and it's been radio silence on the patching or, well, anything front. Let's start at the beginning. The very beginning. The first 15 minutes of Abermore was something I honest to God wasn't expecting because I had my expectations for the story lowered just looking at the initial intro of the game. After making a horror beyond comprehension in the character creator, I awake inside of a boat like this was Morrowind, except no one is here to give me the gift of exposition. I'm hungry though, according to these black boxes of text, so I go steal some food. The next thing I know, I'm in a whole ass visual novel where they keep telling me how purple this woman's eyes are, and apparently I need to go crack some safe for her so she thinks I'm cool, and everything smells like lavender for some reason, and they keep bringing it up, and I think my protagonist might need immediate medical attention. I get distracted on the way to crack the safe because I'm trying to figure out if those little things in front of the guards patrolling this hallway are really weird shadows, or if someone forgot to delete the little arrow indicator that walk animations sometimes have. Also, holy mother of mercy, look at that walk animation. You can tell there was no mocap or any sort of reference for that, but whatever. I go into the safe after learning that all crafting takes place in the weapon wheel, which I will forget by the next mission because who the hell crafts from a weapon wheel when you have an inventory screen? More on that inventory screen later. I'm treated to more sweet lore, or as true believers of this game call it, AberLORE. I instinctively right-click to go into the RenP menu and try to set up a text skip option to skip all unseen text, but unfortunately Abermore isn't that kind of a game. Even mashing left click as fast and as hard as I can, it takes ages to get through all this text. I checked the in-game time for my tutorial in the video editor, and there is more AberLORE in the gameplay tutorial than there is gameplay. In fact, there's almost twice as much AberLORE than there is gameplay. gameplay during the first mission. And mind you, this was me clicking as fast as I could to try and skip it. I guess they never figured out how to make in-game dialogue, because every little conversation you have in this game will cut to a character rocking back and forth in the void while text scrolls in front of you and you occasionally get prompted for a response. There are some ambient lines in game and it's literally just text floating in the air, which are all the same 3 lines, one of which is a literal tester line that the devs forgot to take out before the game was shipped. So I get into this safe and then get treated to another 5 minutes of mashing left click before something happens again. Oh snap, we're being raided by the king, who has death robots in this Victorian setting. I have no idea what time period this game is supposed to be, but I think they were trying to emulate Thief's aesthetic. This is the only time sneaking past these dudes will be easy or even plausible, as the devs actually built this level. Again, more on that later. I sneak out of there, earn 3 achievements that I don't think I was supposed to get, and then I'm confronted by a man aggressively posing and presenting his chest hair to me. Also, his head and body are different colors. Then you wake up in your apartment only to find that there are now plants growing out of your bathroom, which is uncomfortably close to where you prepare your food. Welcome to Abermore. Okay, I need to organize this video somehow, because if I keep on giving you a play-by-play on all the stuff going on, this video is gonna have the foundation kicking in my door and taking the video down for being a cognito hazard. Let's start with the jank, because good lord, there is a lot of it. So the first and most obvious thing we're going to go over here is clipping. Not just object clipping, but everything clipping. Objects will straight up clip through their containers that they're supposed to be locked inside of, entirely negating the need to lockpick or otherwise open up whatever display case that they're hiding in. You're initially given the option of either picking the locks, which are never even locked, finding the key, using a weapon to bash the glass in, or just punching the glass at the cost of some of your health in order to get the glass cases open. But you don't have to do any of those things, because if you just rub up against something close enough, your player model clips inside or something, and you could just pick it up like it was sitting on a shelf, unprotected. This also makes one of the tarot cards, which are Wish knockoff versions of Dishonored's Power of the Outsider, that lets you pass through glass for a bit, entirely useless because you already do that naturally. Oh yeah, by the way, they have various powers in this game that you pick up in level called tarot cards that suck. Really, they are never useful. But wait, there's more. NPC models will frequently clip into things in very odd and also very, unfortunate ways. If I had to guess what's going on here, it's that no one had the time or energy to check how things looked when NPCs interacted with objects to do any fine-tuning for collision. Other NPCs like the hounds, which are inactive until the alarm is raised and then you have to steal their controller chip from their back, can have their challenge completely negated because you can clip into them when they're in their little charging booths, reach through their bodies, and take the microchip preemptively, entirely negating any threat of getting discovered. Although sometimes mad lads in Abermore will gas their entire mansion instead of letting you steal it. Who cares about the lives of all the people working there? And best of all, you clip through things, like the floor. For some reason, sometimes when you load into a level, there's a chance that your standing height will be set to your crouching height, and that makes your crouching height literally through the bottom of the floor. This is a problem, because a lot of missions will have you starting in some kind of cavern with a conveniently connected air vent that you have to crouch to get into and then climb up to get to the level proper. It's really easy to boundary break in this game, whether or not you're actually planning on doing so. This nearly killed my entire playthrough, as I straight up fell out of the final level, despite not doing anything that would seemingly risk that, and I spent more time trying to get back into the final level than I did playing it. Now let's talk about a very important thing you need to do in Abermore before every mission. You must pray to the train. I have no idea why, but for some reason when I faced the train and bowed to it a few times, my heists were more stable and the game didn't soft lock as much when I went just straight into the mission screen and onto the railcar thingy. Sometimes paying my respects to Ned Flanders worked too, which yes, according to this game's files, this guy is Ned Flanders. There is a lot of stuff that is overtly unfinished in Abermore, but they really nailed down their Simpsons cameo. Why are we praying to random game assets? Because everything is a potential softlock and we need all the protection we can get. One of the few things that they actually patched in this game was a near guaranteed softlock in the tutorial mission that made most people unable to get past said tutorial. There's still plenty of softlocks though. Sometimes the game forgets to unlock your mouse in the cutscenes and you're unable to select any sort of dialogue option, including a singular option you'd need to proceed into the mission, meaning you're locked out of the mission before the dang thing's even started. Other soft locks include being respawned in an area where you can't escape because it put you in an area with locked doors and you don't have any picks on you, running out of weapons and being unable to kill a target. Oh, and the game can straight up load a level with impossible to access areas, but at least in that one you can choose to just fail the mission by turning around and leaving, so I guess that technically isn't a soft lock, it's just a completely broken level in a game where you have a finite amount of levels that you get to prepare for something. Let's explain that bit now while it's fresh in our heads. Almost all the levels in Abermore, short of the tutorial, the final level, and maybe a couple others, are entirely random based on tile sets, which there are like 2 of I think, but they could be the same tile set. I don't know. When I say they're randomly generated, I mean they are completely at random. If I had to guess, there are like maybe a handful of basic parameters thrown into the mix before telling the game to start building stuff procedurally, and no one really had the time to double check if any of these randomly generated levels posed a problem. I say that because it was a repeating occurrence that I'd be stuck in a level where I couldn't even get into like the bulk of the facility to do the mission, despite being clearly able to see that a whole map was generated for me because a random pillar spawns in front of the only entryway and I'm unable to progress in game. The bright side of this is that as far as I can tell, it seems that the parameters for finishing a level will always be generated inside of areas you can access, so when that happened, it'd just say something like disable security, 0 out of 0. Completed. And after trying to get in for a couple minutes, I just head out the door and I guess it counts as a successful mission according to the final screen. Abermore is a game that makes you work for it. There are specific objectives in the game, but they're only marked some of the time. I also noticed there were a couple times where I think I got the guy I was supposed to take out, but the objective just didn't mark itself as complete, or there were other times where I was pretty sure I killed every person in a level, but the game marked me as not completing a murder objective. This isn't just for killing targets too, which by the way, Abermore isn't a pure thief like, there are assassination missions. This goes for other things like needing to steal a specific item, like this one painting, which I did steal the correct version of after referencing it against a note I was given multiple times, and also it was literally the only unique painting in the level and possibly the whole game, but I ended up failing that one because I really don't know. It's not like I'm asking for every last little thing to be clearly marked for me like this was Skyrim, but previous things like this were marked on the map and I was told when I did them correctly. So I have no idea what's going on here. Honestly, that last phrase could be a summary of the whole game. The next thing you should know is that Abermore is unforgiving. There is no way to save scum, or even save in the first place. This game auto-saves at the completion of each mission, but outside of that, there is no way to roll back a save, for better or for worse. There is also no way to retry a mission in case things go south, or I don't know, the procedural level generation decides to give you an impossible level. If something does go so wrong that there is no way to proceed with the game, your only recourse is to either quit to the main menu or just force close the game and then start everything over from the last autosave, which usually means doing everything from waking up in the morning from the previous day. I don't think I need to go into much detail about how this can be especially problematic because we just covered how much this game softlocks. And if that wasn't enough, the game also doesn't have a proper inventory management. The most you can do from your inventory screen is drop an item on the floor. For a hot minute, while I had forgotten about how you do literally everything in the weapon wheel, I had to just drop things on the ground and hold E to re-equip them from the floor. That was just me being stupid though, because who the hell just assumes that you're going to be able to equip and manage your inventory from the inventory menu of all things? But there are a few other complications. Sometimes, for whatever reason, a certain item you have won't be on the wheel at all to make space for various crafting recipes that you don't even have the components for, so you gotta do the dropsy-do equip trick like I was doing earlier. Also, not being able to move things in your inventory means that sometimes you'll start a mission with say 2 stacks of ammunition because you're choosing violence today, and you plan to use enough to expend one of those slots so you can put something like a stolen gemstone in there later on. Problem is that for whatever reason, Abermore will only take from one particular stack regardless of which one has more or less, so you can often have a dead slot in your inventory unless you want to ditch some pricey ammunition. Oh yeah, and speaking of inventory, the crafting is nuts too. Individual items can be broken down into core components: hard material, soft material, and chemical stuff. Problem is, you can't break these items down unless you're in the act of crafting. You can craft some useful things when you're in a pinch, like extra crossbow bolts or lockpicks, but you can't craft the good lockpicks that let you skip the awful picking minigame. So between that and the space you need to grab all the individual items to craft a single thing, versus the space you're going to need to get items to steal to complete missions, there is almost no reason not to just go go into a level with all the ammunition and upgraded golden lockpicks that you could possibly need. And there's one last bit of memorable jank before we talk about the everything else of Abermore. For whatever reason, when you're in a mission, the player model that appears when you open your inventory will start duplicating itself indefinitely every time you open up the inventory. I tried to see if I could crash my game or even my whole PC with this, but I guess Abermore is just too low fidelity to do any damage. I did get my 3090's power utilization to creep up for a bit after a while though, so it's doing something. I don't know why, but it's oddly hypnotic to look at. Like, my player character is transcending in the inventory menu at the cost of my inventory menu not being able to do anything that an inventory menu does. Oh, but did you think it was just the core mechanics and coding of Abermore that was jank? Wrong. Everything is jank in Abermore. From the NPCs to the aesthetic and assets to the mechanics that aren't inherently broken but actually kind of still are, everything is complete and total jank. While all interactions with NPCs are done through those black boxes of text while the monotonous annoying sound plays and there is no voice acting, the combination of how they move around a little and what the text says makes everyone in Abermore nuts. Let's just go over a few people you'll be seeing in the game. First of the NPCs is Mr. Chest Hair over here. We talked about him a little before and how his chest and head are different colors, because that's just how he rolls. There is also how his chest hair seems to be one of the most detailed character assets in the game. You talk to this dude a lot in Abermore, and frankly, I couldn't pay attention to what he was saying because I just couldn't get over how off he looked and moved. It's the same story with the vendors. The guy that you fence your stuff to won't stop making weird noises as he power poses, and the person who you buy your gear from is very open towards you. Is that position even comfortable? What kind of message is this person even trying to convey? What are the developers trying to convey with this? Then there's the people who you'll be trying to get to collaborate with you on the big heist at the end of 18 days. The first and most ridiculous of these is someone I've dubbed OnlyFriends. OnlyFriends wants you to give her money because she's just that great and wants to go party with rich people. She rationalizes this to you by saying if she gets in with the right people, she can help you out on the big day because she'll have insider info on the Feast of the Lucky Few. You give her $50, then like 100 or two, I think, and finally $700 just to have access to her friend zone. And what a surprise! Even after completing the quest and her saying she's in with the right crowd now, I can't assign her to a slot on the big heist because I guess you just can't buy someone's affection with money like that. It's worth noting here too that the meters Abermore uses to show quest completion for each potential collaborator are hearts, and when I first started playing this game and talking to potential collaborators, we straight up thought there was some sort of demented romance path in the Discord. We've also got Mr. Murder over here who's just so ready for a fight he's literally boxing the air in anticipation. Except he isn't. His whole shtick is that he's hiring you to do assassination jobs that he took in some kind of weird pyramid-shaped scheme that somehow works out because we're the ones who are doing the dirty deeds. At least this guy actually is willing to join my squad though when I complete his quest. Finally, we've got the first and most confusing of the potential collaborators with the Edgelord. The Edgelord is so edgy her friggin' character model changes between the overworld and the cutscenes. You might be put off by the Edgelord's missions at first because the ones she gives you are marked as hard despite it being so early in the game, but I gotta be honest, the detection AI in this game is so broken that none of the levels are really all that challenging. Edgelord just can't stop questioning if you're the right pick for the big heist after the previous super cool thief person got captured, but I don't exactly see her doing cool stuff lately. The gutter, or whatever this place is called where we meet all our collaborators, isn't some kind of containment zone for all the weird either. People in the overworld are just as bad, if not worse, than in the gutters. For starters, we've got this man who straight up changes into a different person when we talk to him during the secret stream, which very much alarmed us. This is most likely because in the rush to get this game out the door, people weren't checking to see if overworld models were lining up with cutscene models, but I choose to see this as a person entirely changing his appearance before our eyes when we decide to address him. But wait, there's more. There's also random sword guy, train ticket guy who you can talk to as if there's something to do with him, but nothing happens, and literally death. Normal, big air quotes around that word there, NPCs in the overworld, will usually be like Miss OnlyFriends and want your money from you for something. I think the only person who gives you anything in return is a homeless guy who just gives you a literal junk item for crafting. For everyone else though, you get nothing in return for the money, and it never amounts to anything because as far as I can tell, the prompts all just reset every day and you can just keep giving them money over and over again and nothing will happen, at least for me. There is one NPC that's a very rare encounter who blows all the other weirdos away. He is so powerful, Ned Flanders dares not go inside the train station lest he encounter him. Behold, Lowry 2. This absolute mad lad fears nothing and has the thigh strengths to prove it. I only ever saw him once in game and it scarred me for life. I would have never thought that Mystery of the Druids 2 would pull a frog fractions on all of us and release their sequel under an entirely different name and genre of game. But let's take some time to talk about the aesthetic in Abermore for a bit. I have no idea what they were going for here. Part of me still wants to say it was a, hey, we heard Thief was a really cool game, so we played the first level and based our game off of that type deal. But some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. At first I thought this was an asset flip or something, but after doing a little digging around the Unity asset store, I realized that even the free assets on the Unity store look better than the stuff they were using in game. And unfortunately, for reasons I'll go into later on, there's no way for me to check if any of these are attributed as purchased or royalty-free assets. The reason I was checking the asset store in the first place was because while all the other things in Abermore seem to sort of be trying to imitate the old Thief games, such as a Victorian-esque city with lordly types and servants using some level of technology that is sometimes powered by magic, one thing that really stood out to me among all the blackjacks, blow darts, and climbing rope stuff you can buy at the robber store, you can just skip all the quiet stuff and buy a goddamn gun. For real. There's all this kind of steampunk stuff in the gutter and people dressed like it's sometime between like the 17th and 19th century, but one of the second tier items you get in the game is just straight up an M1911, which fires 9mm in this setting. I don't know why. It's also more accessible than the non-lethal blow dart gun, by the way, which I believe is much simpler technology. But it gets even better. While I never had the need to purchase it, you can buy a straight up SMG if you want to play really loud. The pistol was more than enough to easily wipe out everyone in a mission though, so I passed on that one. There's also the more reasonable for the setting one-handed crossbow that's supposed to fire some sort of dart, but something's a little off about it. Notice how it looks a lot like the pistol with some crossbow arms glued onto it. Notice how you get iron sights when you try to ADS in the game. Notice how there's a friggin' muzzle flash when you fire it. Yeah, somebody called Dave Ostry and Taffer King because they need to redirect thiefwithguns.com to Abermore's Steam page. All right, let's see if there's anything else I'm forgetting. There's how hiding bodies has the usual stuff like stuffing them in elevators, lockers, or just tossing them somewhere where no one is likely to come across them. And you can also just sit them down in chairs or lay them on the bed like they're taking a little nap. No one will notice the huge crossbow bolt sticking out of their forehead. The boys and I had a little too much fun with this, especially with this one where we were given a mission where we were supposed to ruin a wedding, but I couldn't figure out how to mess with the flowers like I was asked to at first, so I just assembled all the guests in the chairs for the happy couple. Like, hey, as far as stuff that might ruin your wedding goes, this ought to do it. The client was happy at the end though, so I think I did fine. Oh yeah, and you can level up in this game. How do you level up? Capitalism, baby. I can hear the video essays being written now. As far as I can tell, which is a phrase I've been saying a lot in this video because there's just so much stuff that I cannot say for certain because of the jank, there is no benefit for leveling up, as I was able to access higher tiers of stuff at the store, not by associated level, but how many like heists I completed. And I don't see any skill benefits here either. Okay, let's see, anything else worth mentioning? Oh yeah, this game takes place in Final Fantasy VII. Just chew on that for a bit. But why talk about any of this, Charles? Why transmit the pain into our Ethernet cable and across our Wi-Fi and inflict the same psychic damage as you have onto our souls, I hear you ask? And I'll tell you why. Abermore is the immersiest of the immersive sims. Sure, you can't stack boxes because I don't think the developers figured out how to do that kind of physics, but everything else is pure emergent gameplay. Mount any ledge. Use pretty much any holdable object as a weapon. Clip out of levels in order to find a better vantage point for stealing something. Out of dynamite? Just shoot at the wall with whatever you got, like crossbow, a gun, anything, and it'll go down eventually. Take advantage of all that jank to do anything your heart desires. This game is so open-ended, they didn't even finish it for us so that we could have a true immersive experience. This isn't just me really being ironic either, although it kind of is. The devs did put a lot of work into making systems that are designed to be played around with, such as climbing ropes, the previously mentioned anything as a melee or thrown item with the right attitude, how most levels have this little upper shelf area that you can sneak around on, and the abilities, while hard to use or hard to find like good excuses to use, can get very creative once you figure out how the hell the tarot card system works. I am also willing to believe that some of the jank here was at very least a placeholder intentional feature, because in order to disarm the security cameras, you have to straight up clip into their model to steal the microchip thing, and once those metal hounds are up, there's very little chance you're gonna be able to steal the chip out of them, so you gotta clip through them when they're in their little charging bay too. Most of the systems in this game are straight up broken, but they end up working in a way that lets you do just about anything with them, like how stealth is entirely optional. Let's go a little deeper into that stealth. It is utterly broken, and you have to be so careless it's almost intentional if you actually want to get noticed by anyone. Most of the times I got caught, it was because a level had been randomized in a way where I had to go through a security door that I had no way of disarming in order to progress, or someone finally noticed that everyone silently sitting at the dinner table is dead. I'll definitely take this over like super aware stealth that's nearly impossible to do, but NPCs in Abermore seem to lack object permanence and have a 15-degree field of vision. You can straight up kill dudes in their line of sight and they won't immediately notice. Thanks to this lack of awareness, stealth is entirely optional and you can play the game as you see fit. Your 1911 kills people fast enough to where it's easier to run around the level and clear everyone out instead of sneaking around. And the level won't even give you any penalties for that unless there was a specific objective not to hurt anyone because you technically weren't detected. You know what else is broken? Non-lethal takedowns. You can knock people out with a blackjack, a thrown item, or a blow dart, and it's supposed to, key word there being supposed to, temporarily knock them out for a set amount of time before they get back up, allowing you to remove them from the map for a bit without actually killing them. Problem is that for some reason, once NPCs are in the knocked out state, they can't revert back into the active state. So once their little timer runs out, they just stay knocked out forever. If you really want to, this makes non-lethal play very, very easy so long as you stick it out until you get the blow dart at tier 3. Based on the previously mentioned laughably easy stealth system though, and how having a 1911 when everyone else has nothing makes lethal quote unquote stealth too easy, and the bonus for non-lethal just isn't worth it if there even is one in the first place. Whatever, I got ledges to abuse. Oh yeah, and there's a story in this game. Let me give you a quick crash course in what went down at the beginning. You were stowing away on a boat for whatever reason, and some lady who smells very strongly of lavender teleports behind you and makes you steal some stuff for her. She gets arrested by the mecha dudes, and you're told that you are now taking on the mantle of the unhanged man, and you've got to sneak into the king's feast in 18 days to steal everything that isn't nailed down. Those 18 days will be spent doing heists to recruit members to your crew so that you can steal from the king, because some rando told you to. So you are now known as an entity called the Unhanged Man. You get this cool purple outfit that you never actually unlock in the game, or at least I never saw the opportunity to get it, and you get a special mask that's been passed down for hundreds of years that bears the visage of the king, who is either hundreds of years old himself, or every king has looked exactly the same, because the mask is also a match for the current king, who personally oversees the capture of the previous Unhanged Man. On top of being a famous thief, the king is arresting the Unhanged Man, or the previous one anyway, because he's going to hold the Feast of the Lucky Few, a big party the Unhanged Man is infamous for robbing. Why keep holding it or having it under the same name in spite of knowing that the Unhanged Man is gonna hit it? Because the plot says so. That's why. Despite being the new Unhanged Man, you're an absolute rookie, so you've got to do a bunch of stupid crap to prove to the other would-be collaborators that you're good enough for the heist to go on, because the plot said so. Spoiler time! Sorta. There's not really all that much going on in the game's plot beyond that. I'm not even marking the spoilers out because you need the AberLORE. No questions. You take whoever you want to into the Feast of the Lucky Few, rob the place blind, and manage to rescue the old Unhanged Man in the dungeons, but not before clipping out of the whole damn level and nearly soft locking. And then the story wraps up and it cuts to nothing. For some reason, the credits don't load and the game just crashes. This is why I can't really confirm all that much about the assets in the game, because I can't see the credits where the pre-bought assets would be attributed. I also can't tell who precisely worked on this game. The end. I uninstalled the game because I know in my heart of hearts I cannot take any more Abermore. Okay, I think I owe you all an explanation, which might be obvious as I've hinted at it previously, but I'll confirm it. Abermore is an unfinished game that was rushed out for whatever reason. Additionally, it's highly unlikely that we will ever get a post-launch support of any kind, according to the developers. Abermore came out at the very end of March, and I decided that I'd give it at least a month to see what they would be able to fix, as the immediate issues of the game were all pretty glaring. They got about as far as fixing that soft lock in the tutorial, adding the option to rebind your keys, and fixing a few minor sound cues. The game was made by a studio called 4 Circle Interactive, an indie outfit that made a game called 10 Second Ninja, which, while I have not played it, I gotta be honest, it looks like a game from the golden age of Flash. They're well reviewed though, so I have no reason to doubt that they're fun. According to this guy from 4 Circle, allegedly, this game was announced shortly after everyone at the team had found full-time work doing other things. I have no idea what kind of agreement the studio had with their publisher that would make that happen, but it seems very strange to me. He also hints that they weren't given a lot to make the game with, and he believes that the game won't get the support it deserves, which I think he's right on that one, at least as far as I can tell based on the support we have seen so far. And that aside from a couple early patches, which did end up happening a week after launch, the team is still at their other jobs, so anything more than that is highly unlikely. We are now well over a month in, and nothing since the patch on the 7th of April has happened. It's also worth noting that none of the other devs, whoever they might be, since I can't exactly look at the credits, have said anything about Abermore, and the official Abermore Twitter page has been radio silent since announcing the game had gone live. I'd be lying if I neglected to say that I had an amazing time with Abermore, but not necessarily because I was playing it. Abermore is one of the few examples of a so bad it is good video game, and when you play it with a bunch of friends watching you, and you're all laughing and screaming at it, it's a great time. Try to think of it like watching The Room, Birdemic, or a Neil Breen movie. If you watch it by yourself, you're gonna give yourself a headache, and you're gonna wonder what the hell you're doing with your life. If you get a bunch of friends together and get blasted while watching it, and spend the whole evening screaming and making fun of the movie, it's the best time you've ever had. I can confirm this experience because when I tried to play Abermore by myself just to get all the footage, it was like pulling teeth. But when I streamed it for everyone in the Discord, it was the best thing ever. By the way, did you know we have secret streams in the Discord where we play so bad it's good games and other stuff I can't really show on YouTube? You should come on down to the Discord sometime, my dude. If I had to sum up Abermore, I'd say it's an ambitious idea surrounded by a terrible, well, everything else. Terrible development schedule, terrible execution, terrible post-launch support, and generally some guys that were most likely in over their head in more ways than we will ever know. I think that maybe, just maybe, if the team was given a near unlimited amount of time and money, Abermore could be fixed into something that, while not great, would be certainly something that's entertaining enough on its own, but we already know that is not happening. In our present reality, Abermore stands as a warning to all aspiring indies as to what happens when you say to yourself, wow, Thief 2 was really cool. How hard could making an immersive sim possibly be? Abermore is currently still listed on Steam for $15.99, and let's be honest here, there's a lot of better things you could do with $15.99. Like support my Patreon, where you can help the channel and get cool perks like early access to videos and recipes for the cooking segments. So you should check that out, my dude. It's also worth noting that there isn't really a community around this game. Back when I was playing it for the boys in the stream, someone pulled up the Steam charts for me, and it seemed that I was quite literally the only person in the world playing Abermore at that very moment. That was back on the 15th of April. I checked back at the beginning of this month, and the situation hasn't gotten any better. There was never more than one person playing the game, and the few who did play did not play it for longer than an hour. This game has an all-time peak of 26 concurrent players, and frankly, that feels about right given the state of the game's launch and current state. That's gonna do it for today. Remember to like this video and subscribe, even though I get more and more of you telling me that you just aren't getting your notifications for my videos anymore for months on end, as I have apparently angered the algorithm. Regardless of that though, I do appreciate each and every one of you subscribing, and I do have a great time making these videos for all of you. I have no idea what's coming up next, but it's best if you hit that bell because hopefully YouTube will tell you when that next thing goes live. In the meantime, please stay safe, stay indoors, wear your sunscreen when you gotta go out, wash your hands regularly, and enjoy this cat video.
Brisk. We're doing another test here. We're just trying to nail down the audio of this camera. Oh, that's worse. Oh, look at that boy. Aesthetic boy. Why do I not have grids on? Oh, I guess it's because it's a manual setting for what is it? The video mode versus the photo mode. Can I get a pet? Smells like snack. Just had a meal prep. Look at all that lovely fur. Look at all that fluffy fur. I'm gonna scritch. Boy. You just resent everything about me, don't you? I don't blame you.